so I didn't want to start an org, but eventually I needed to get a building for a drop-in center. You need a bank account, you need to raise money. Okay. So I had to start a 501c3. It's called the Well. No real thought about the name, just like, it doesn't matter. And then, but over time, I've come to really love that we have this, because I did it very reluctantly, but now I've set it up as like a 501c3 holding company. So that nonprofit now owns LLCs. So our biggest of those is WellBuilt Bikes, which is a nonprofit bike shop. So, and then we have a food education arm called Well-Fed Community, a network of community gardens called Eden Project, a mobile free market called the Kinship Mobile Free Market. And then some other little projects, Humanize, and a handful of other things. Those are the things that I care about people knowing about, right? Like I consider the well like the soil. Like you don't go to a garden and talk about like the dirt. You talk about the tomato plant, which would be like WellBuilt Bikes or whatever. And so WellBuilt, it started out this cheesy thing, like this old man's like, the Well's building bikes. So they're like, WellBuilt, get it? And then it stuck, and then it became like a really cool brand. And then like the food arm called themselves Well-Fed. And then I was like, you don't have to call it that. And they like caught on, right? Like, so we're like incubating these other kind of things. So I don't care that anyone knows the Well, and I want them to know these things. But then I started using the language of a well-built city as a way to cast vision. Like we can build a new city, a well-built city, a city where we have access and connection. And I intended that fully as like vision, right? And then I think I made the mistake of writing that on the side of our Kinship mobile market. And now all the time I go places and they go, this is John. He's the director of WellBuilt City. And like, all of a sudden that like becomes like oh shit, that was a mistake that we made. For me, it really is a way to go. I want to engage everyone in our city to lock arms to do this work, because together we can make our city whole if we prioritize kind of our most vulnerable of neighbors. And that's what I want to kind of communicate, both in action in the work we're doing and in messaging. But I don't have a lot of like training in how to do that, other than just like, I could talk and I'll get in front of as many people to let me and do that. But I've been thinking of marketing almost as like, well, I don't know. I've been using the language of propaganda. Like I'm trying to create propaganda for the city we want to build. And so we've been putting out podcasts and newsletters and these kind of things that are trying to be like about Tampa, very Tampa centric. This is what's going on in our city. This is what's coming up. Eventually you might want to check out, kind of ethos stuff. But as I've been putting that stuff out, one, I'm like, I don't know about the effort being put into it. Whereas like, there's not a ton of people that are yet paying attention to that, right? But trying to like really message this stuff, but then also realizing the mistakes we make early on stick. And like, now I'm like, what do you do when that happens? Do we roll with it? Do I fight with the, like, this is the way it caught on? I'm trying to like wrestle it back to vision cast. Hopefully there's enough in there to kind of imply the question. I'd really love you to kind of speak into just our situation.
I would say to you that sometimes, John, you fall into something that sticks and take it. Like, if you're calling it a mistake. And so I would just say, lean into it. Don't fight it. I think that like, whether you want to or not, it actually sounds, or whether you reject it or not. I mean, I think the reality is that you kind of are owning this vision.
Yeah.
Because you're putting it out there as yours, right? Like just starting the Well, I think that was like, even if it just stayed as the Well and you didn't call it anything, and it was all these little things that you were doing around the Well, you kind of started it. It kind of is your vision. Lean into it. I would just say absolutely lean into it. The thing that you need to do with WellBuilt City and WellBuilt Cities is figure out like how to write that manifest, and have it. It's in your head. Like I mean, even as you're talking about it, like it's in your head, the language is there. Like I can, if I sat down with you for half an hour, you could write it. Like it's in your head. And so, which is, I think, a gift. And so I would sit down and say, what do you want WellBuilt Cities to be? Like, what do you actually want it to be? And by the way, it could at some point become a blueprint for other cities, like stay in Tampa now.
That's the bigger idea, right? That's right.
Right. And so there's something really interesting there. You could start to enroll mayors in that conversation. You could start, there's a really big thing that you could do here, but obviously start in Tampa, right? Because it doesn't go anywhere else unless it actually like works where you have it.
That's
and
right.
So really
That's
think
right.
about that. Write the thing that's almost unattainable right now. right? Like put it out there in the world. Like, what is the vision? What do you guys want? Believe it or not, you guys, we're going through that process right now at JP Morgan Chase, a company that's been around for 200 years. We're having that conversation right now. Why do we exist? Ask yourself, why do you exist? Ask yourself, what is the business you're in? John, what is the business you're in?
So I'll tell you immediately. Let me just tell you what just jumped in me is city building.
Yeah.
Is that an okay?
But that's great. What a great vision to have. You may never achieve that vision on your own. Guys, the vision for Patagonia, or the purpose for Patagonia, the company, why they exist to save planet Earth. Not to sell clothes, right. Not to sell like adventures and sustainability, to save planet Earth. They just sold their company to 2 nonprofits to ensure that when they are gone, like, right, when that founder is gone, that CEO is gone, that the nonprofits are going to use Patagonia to save planet Earth. Like, so really think about, like, all of you guys, what is the business that you're in? Write it down, even if it's unachievable today. And then think through, what are the different elements that are going to get me there? Right? What are the different parts of the business that are going to get me there? How is the podcast going to get me there? How is the bike business going to get me there? How is the food business going to get me there? Right? That's what I would start with. But for you, John, WellBuilt Cities, if people are already using it, that's how people are already introducing you, and at the end of the day, that actually is the vision you have, don't fight it, lean into it, but make it mean something. And think about how you're going to prioritize those things that are going to get you to make it mean something, right? And then the marketing piece of it, you can figure out, obviously.